You ever get that feeling when you buy something online and by the time it ships, you already regret it? Now, imagine that, but instead of a $30 gadget you ordered from Amazon, it's a $700,000 condo. And instead of clicking cancel order, you're calling your lawyer. Well, welcome to buyer's remorse, Ontario style, because right now, a lot of people, and I mean a lot, are staring at those condo contracts thinking, maybe I should have just stayed in my rental and bought more avocados instead. I'm just kidding. Seriously, here's the truth. Condo values across Ontario have dropped 10 to 20% since the 2022 peak. Interest rates have doubled, mortgage renewals are brutal, and pre-construction buyers are getting hit the hardest. We've got people who bought in 2021 thinking they are locking in the deal of a lifetime. Now that lifetime deal is worth less than their parking spot. And their units are finally ready, but the appraisals are coming in much lower than the purchase price. And the banks are basically saying, sorry, that sounds like a you problem. Lawyers and mortgage brokers are flooded with emails that all start the same way. Can I just walk away? Short answer, no. Long answer, absolutely not. The longest answer, well, you're going to want to keep watching this video because in Ontario, walking away from a condo isn't like ghosting a bad date. The seller doesn't just move on. They take you to court. And it's not just condo buyers. Anyone who bought a home in the last few years knows the feeling. The deal closes, you pop the champagne, and the bubbles settle, and along with your sense of financial security. And now you're sitting on the couch thinking, wait a second. Did I just commit to 25 years of debt over a kitchen island? You sure did. Hi there, this is Claudia from the Ragona Sisters, and today we're talking about something a lot of Ontario buyers are feeling right now. Buyer's remorse, what it really means, and the legal consequences of trying to walk away from a deal. And I'm sure, as you probably seen on the news or maybe even heard from friends, a lot of buyers who jumped into those bidding wars ended up with serious regret. Some even called their lawyers the next day asking if they could cancel the deal. But remorse isn't a legal defense. And that right there, that's the Ontario real estate motto nobody wants printed on a brochure. Remorse isn't a legal defense. It's just an expensive emotion. Now, to be fair, the courts don't actually call this buyer's remorse. They call it breach of contract. And let's be honest, that's usually how remorse ends up on paper. You get cold feet, you try to delay, you can't close, and suddenly it's not emotion anymore. It's litigation. So let's move from the feelings to the fallout. This is Philp versus Osungade, 2024. It's an Ontario case that perfectly captures what happens when remorse meets reality. A buyer in Clarington made a strong offer, $1,035,000. No, there was no financing clause, no inspection, no escape route. They won the house and a future lawsuit. As the closing day approached, the buyer's lender wasn't ready. Appraisals didn't appraise to the value that they paid for. So appraisal delays, paperwork chaos, nerves. So they asked the seller for an extension. Just 1 week, please. The seller said no, because the contract said time is of the essence. That's legal for miss the date, lose the deal. The buyer didn't close, the sellers relisted it. By then, the market had cooled faster than a January open house, literally, because they resold it for $850,000, down $185,000. The seller sued, the court ruled the buyer was in breach of contract and owed the difference plus the costs. And that's what buyer's remorse looks like once lawyers get involved. A single missed deadline turned into a six-figure in damages. In Ontario, you don't get an extension for nerves. A deal is a deal. Next, Van Hove versus Dryuff, 2025. This story proves hesitation can still cost you everything. A buyer agreed to pay $2.35 million for a property. Then they spotted old oil and gas leases on the title, and they panicked. They demanded the seller remove them before closing. The seller refused, calling them ancient and irrelevant. The buyer walked. The seller relisted and sold for $1.85 million. That's $500,000 less, and sued for the shortfall. The motion judge sided with the seller and ordered the buyer to pay $542,000 in damages. But on appeal, the Ontario Court of Appeal overturned it, saying a buyer doesn't need a catastrophic defect to raise a valid title concern, only a reasonable one, raised in time. The buyer eventually escaped, but not without years in litigation and stress. And it's a reminder that even winning in court can still feel like losing. But here's the cold truth. Whether it's a condo, a townhouse, or a cottage, once you sign that agreement of purchase and sale and waive the conditions, you're legally bound. You can only walk if a condition in the contract isn't met, the seller misrepresented something major, or you both agree in writing to cancel. And that's it. Try to back out for any other reason, and you risk losing your deposit, paying damages if the seller resells for less, and covering legal costs on top of that. So when you make a firm offer, you're not buying time, you're buying an obligation. Condo buyers are feeling it the worst right now. Detached homes on average might have dipped $50,000, but condos can swing by $100,000 overnight. And if you bought pre-construction in 2021, your mortgage approval was based on 2% rates. Now it's close to 4%. That's not remorse, it's math. But the contract doesn't care. It doesn't say subject to interest rates staying friendly. And that's why some lawyers are calling this the biggest wave of buyer's remorse Ontario has ever seen. And the cruel twist, most of it isn't from bad decisions, it's from bad timing. Buying a home isn't purely financial, it's emotional. You fall in love with the place, you imagine the furniture, growing a family, you justify the price. When that adrenaline fades and you realize you've bought a 30-year commitment with drywall, it's human doubt. But the law doesn't do human. It does contracts and signatures and closing dates. And that's why so many remorse stories end the same way, in court. If you want to avoid being Exhibit A, follow these truths. Don't waive your conditions just to win a bidding war. Winning today isn't worth paying for tomorrow. And get real pre-approval. Pre-qualified means a maybe. You want confirmed numbers from your lender, and read every line. If you don't understand a clause, ask before signing. It's your name on the line, not your agent's. And listen to your gut. If you're uneasy before signing, that's your subconscious begging you to wait. Because once you sign, your feelings stop mattering, but your finances don't. And these cases and regrets aren't just about homes. They're about accountability. So if remorse were an acceptable excuse, sellers couldn't trust buyers, lenders couldn't trust borrowers, and the housing market would be chaotic. Courts enforce deals not to punish emotion, but to preserve certainty. That's what keeps the entire system standing. Buyer's remorse doesn't make you foolish, it makes you human. But acting on it without legal reason makes you liable. In Philp versus Osungade, remorse cost $185,000. In Van Hove versus Dryuff, it cost almost $500,000. And for many condo buyers right now, it could mean losing deposits, equity, or both. Regret doesn't refund your down payment. It just empties your savings faster. And if you're thinking about buying, here's the real advice. If you're not ready to close, please, I'm telling you now, you're not ready to sign. Agents love to say, don't wait too long. Somebody else will buy it. Here's my version. Wait as long as you need, because if you buy too fast, you might still be paying for it after they moved out. Ontario doesn't offer a cooling off period for second thoughts, but your instincts do. So please listen to them before you listen to anyone else. I'm not here to scare you. I am here to tell you the truth. I don't sell houses. Well, yes, I do sell houses. I just tell you what happens after people buy them. And in Ontario, the truth is simple. You can't return a condo like a sweater. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.